Hello, welcome to TC, io.js TC meeting for, what is it, April the 22nd. So we've got Ben, Bert, Chris, Dominic, Jeremiah, if this little thing would get out of my way, we've got Trevor, myself, Rod, and we have Brian and Shieki joining us for the first time today. They're going to be participating in this meeting. So we're going to hop straight into it and do a review of last meeting. That's what we're going to do. So we discussed the upgrade to 4.2, V8 4.2, and then we're going to discuss that again this week, just to see where that's at. We talked about combining the io.js and Node, joint Node TC for a call. I think that's developed a bit further on the issue there. I'm not sure what the status of that is or whether anyone here can update us on that. And we talked about Michael's diff of the io.js documentation and our practices and what the Node Foundation documents and how they're evolving. So there's a issue 1416 there with a big diff, which is really good. So let's have a quick stand up. Ben, do you want to tell us what you've been up to?
Nothing much, really, because I've been working on company projects, so that keeps it short for me. Hybrid. Beetje, your turn.
Sorry, it was faster than expected. Couldn't find your mute button. I have been, I think, not doing so much interesting things. Building a, this actually works now, more or less. Doing an experiment with Clang still, where I can require a .h file and it produces sort of an exports object, and I hope to make FFI much easier with that. I was planning to do some more CI work, but unfortunately TAP hasn't been enabled yet, so it doesn't. I couldn't really get any further with that. And there was Fluent.
That's top of mind for me.
I mean, it's not. I'm not trying to blame you. It's just, you know, that was my first priority, but it's a bit blocked right now. Yesterday was Fluent, where I sat on a panel with Scott Hammond and like Michael and some other people, and where we discussed the reconciliation if that happens. And I think people are quite happy with it, so that's good. That's it for me. Next one would be, well, I don't know if Brian wants to go. That seems a bit awkward, so let's go to Chris.
Look, Brian. I think Brian should get a go. He's been doing plenty of activity on the project.
That's true.
Tell us what you've been doing.
So Brian, we do a little stand-up here at this point in the TC meeting. Just tell us what you've been doing in the last week or whatever.
Does that sound fine?
Yep, that's fine.
Okay. The last week, mostly has just been working on the JavaScript-based HTTP parser and optimizing that, trying to find different ways around using regex and all that kind of stuff.
Cool, thanks. Next would be Chris.
Cool. So in order from smallest to largest, I checked on the URL changes. I'm still kind of working on getting the npm test working with my local copy of io.js, but I have a list of candidate modules to test it against that should give us a good idea of whether or not, there's any big breakage. Checked on the resume session and new session events for TLS, I do believe. Only found one module out of my npm cache. Looking into getting some hardware to put together a full fat DB clone of npm, so I can actually get a more exhaustive result. Kind of looking at putting together a collaborator check-in issue, and did the v181 release, and I'm putting together a bit of a postmortem for that to see where we can buff up the release stock. I think next would be Dominic.
Hey, not too much for me this week. Starting out with some cool stuff on V8 extensions that I might have some more news on next week.
Yeah. Well, I was working on recently on the fixing extreme slowdown of the V8 debugger in the io.js with a WebStorm IDE. I think I made some progress today on this, so it should be a bit better if my patch will be accepted to the V8. Also, I was working on using the Shieki. Sorry, I'm really bad at pronouncing your name. I was working on building a patch for removing the client hello parser and using the OpenSSL 1.0.2 APIs for the synchronous certificate lookup and stuff like that. And I did some reviewing of the patches at HTTP parser repo. So yeah, that's all for me. Next is, I guess, Jeremiah. No?
Yep. So not too much io.js, but I did do some stuff regarding helping Chris with the 1.8.1 release, and also I've been looking at that idea to move npm out of the source repository, our source repository. And the next would be Rod.
So busy typing, I haven't even mentally prepared to list what I've been doing. So, yeah, I'm not actually really sure. Helping with the 1.8 release, and we had a bunch of CI problems with that, both Jenkins and one of the OSX machines died, and the other one then needed updating, and we needed to create a new VM on it to mirror what the second machine was doing. That was kind of crazy, but that's working now. And that we've got the second box back up again. I just haven't re-enabled it. I have added a couple more Raspberry Pis to the cluster, the CI cluster. We've had a couple more donations. For, 2 Raspberry Pi 2s from Joey Van Dyke in the Netherlands. And I'm sure I've done other stuff, but I can't think of it right now. So let's move on to who's next? Shieki.
Can you hear me?
Yep, can hear you fine.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I was working on the OpenSSL work for the reviewing feeders patch, and I'm also working on the to update a root search that was submitted by Ben in the few weeks ago. But I found that there is a trouble for the Mozilla found for the deprecating 1024 root search. So I'm now watching their fixing, enabling deprecated search. And this week I'm working on to support add API of ALPM, and will be submit the new PR in this week. That's all. Can you understand?
Cool, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Shaky. I think Trevor is next.
Hey, only thing worth mentioning is I've been messing around with ES6 using the latest D8 4.4 build to see the difficulty in re-implementing buffers using array buffers and typed arrays.
Oh man, how's it going? How's it going?
I mean, fundamentally, like if this API had worked, I mean, if this API had existed when buffers were first implemented, life would be great. The issue is the massive breakage that's coming. But I think the implementation, there are a couple small issues, like since .slice is inherited, that means that also will be breakage, right? Because it won't point to the original buffer, it'll create a new buffer from it.
We can overwrite it though, right?
I haven't tested that, but I can try it out.
Yeah, it should be possible.
Okay. But yeah, like, yeah, that's it. And surprisingly, they're performant, or at least being able to override the implementation so that you can use a non-zero filled array is making them actually faster than the current implementation. That's all.
That was always the problem with extending them, wasn't it? That extending was going to be slower, but that's fixed now. Is that right?
Well, yeah. See, there is a patch coming. It's in that PR open by V8. I forget his name, but from the V8 team, where you can use a non-zero field buffer and still keep it internal, so V8 can clean it up. That way, we can still use the same mechanics that we're currently using from the garbage collector to clean up the memory. And yeah, since we can use that and then get the memory back out without a problem, it does in fact, it is in fact faster being able to do that. But yeah, the zero filling was always the major issue in terms of buffer allocation and performance.
Cool. Okay, so I think that's everybody. Let's move on to the actual meeting. So the first item is nominating Jeremiah to the TC. So Jeremiah has been joining us for a few weeks, has been adding value. He's adding value right now by taking some of the minutes, which is great. I thought that it would probably time to just do a formal vote on Jeremiah's involvement in the TC. So can we get a roll call of TC members and their votes for Jeremiah joining the TC? Ben?
+1, I'm in favor. Hybrids?
Sorry. Yes, +1 for me too. Next would be Chris.
+1 for me too. I believe the next would be Fyodor.
+1. Next,
Rob.
Trevor.
Myself actually on TC now, aren't I? So +1 from me. Trevor?
Yeah, sorry. I'm bad at alphabetical order.
Yeah, +1.
Great. Okay. Jeremiah, welcome on board. You are now TC, and your vote will be cared about.
Thank you.
Should we require him to +1 himself?
We'll just get into an infinite loop or something then. So the next three items were just nominations, and I put them on the agenda for completeness to mention that they were there. I didn't intend that we would vote on these nominations, but the idea is to expand the TC, and we had some private discussion about this, and also we talked privately to the individuals concerned about. Sorry, reading the chat. So we've got Michael as a formal nomination. I've made that nomination. Now, Michael's not deeply involved in the technical aspects of the project, but as we've been discussing, Michael is deeply involved in pretty much everything else with regard to the project. So, and the TC has sort of expanded its role in what it does to more than just technical. So I personally think that's appropriate. And Michael has a very long history, longer than most of the rest of us in the project, so deep concern for it, and I think that qualifies him. But does anyone else want to comment on that publicly, or should we just move on?
I don't know. Let's keep it on the mailing list. I mean, we are having a thread about it. He's been super helpful, so in that sense, it makes sense. I wonder though, Rod, like expanding right now, does it? I wonder how this sort of will work together with also maybe joining the Node project.
So my opinion on that is that we should be pretty much in terms of everyday business, we should be ignoring the prospect of a merger, because the more we take that into account, the more it's going to hinder any progress that we want to make in the project. So I think that those things need to be handled as a separate process, and we should just continue on as we would do. That's my opinion. And do you have thoughts on the difficulty that would cause? I'm not sure I understand any difficulty there.
Well, so the difficulty I see might arise is that we have a very big group merging with another pretty large group, and that just causes scaling problems. Also, it's the expectation on the other side, of course, is not that we stack up on as many people as we can just before the merger. That seems a little bit strange to do. I mean, I'm sure that wasn't your intention, but maybe it's good to we could even just discuss it if we do have another joint TC call, to talk about these things. And the other practical thing will be if we end up with a 15-person TC, then we probably should stop voting on TC meetings and move that entirely offline or entirely online, because it doesn't scale very well. There will be many people that will not be able to attend, or and we will probably be voting more often, because if you have a bigger group, there will be more dissent inside, etc. So I wonder if if you had thoughts on these consequences.
So on the scheduling and voting and all the rest of those mechanic sides, I think that we're going to have to deal with them anyway. And having a large TC is probably, everyone thinks that's probably a good idea. So we're going to have to hit that anyway, whether it's in this project or in a combined project. So I'm not sure that that's the huge concern for this. With regard to stacking the board, if that's a concern, then maybe we should limit the combined stuff to the original TC. I don't know if it is a concern, because I don't know I don't know if there's been that much participation in the combined meetings. Just I haven't been able to make it, but just from my reading, it seems like the participation level is relatively low. But we can try and gauge that if it's a real concern. Yeah, I don't know. Again, it comes back to this thing of holding up progress and holding up what we would be doing otherwise with the prospect of a merger, which may not actually happen. Let's not pretend that this is a foregone conclusion. So let's deal with these things as they really come up.
So actually, I'm not in favor of holding it up. I think growing the TC in particular might be a bit risky, but okay, we can probably work out of it. As for participation on the joint TC calls, yes, I was a bit disappointed about it as well. Although I have to admit, I missed the first one myself by accident, so I probably shouldn't be complaining. But it would be good if more io.js people would join. You didn't get the invite, Ben?
Yeah, I didn't know there was a call actually. So.
Yeah, similarly.
Same here.
That's strange, because I'm pretty sure you were all on the two list. Did it end up in your spam box or something?
Who sent it?
James Snell, I think.
I'm going through my email, but
It was probably sent from Outlook or something, so maybe you didn't get it. Okay, anyway, that's a separate issue. But look, my opinion is that now is the right time to expand the TC, because we have some people like Jeremiah, Brian, and Shecky who are deeply invested in the project and who have a lot to offer. And there's this plurality of viewpoints is really valuable, particularly on technical issues. And we should be making the most of that and pulling people up to a new level of responsibility where it makes sense. So I think it makes sense now. And but we can continue to have this discussion, and perhaps we limit the rate at which we do this. I'd love to. There's a few more people I'd love to nominate, but we can take it easy. Anyway.
Well, let's see. Let's see if people get what the foundation folks, if they see there's a concern. I'll ask them. That's okay. I mean, in general, I'm in favor of adding these people. So, yeah.
Okay. If Giant Node want to stack their board and add quality people, then the more quality people, the better. I just don't. I don't think there's a. I don't think there can be any real objections to the people that we're adding. Like Brian, given his really long involvement with the project, just makes sense, and Shieki, given his technical contributions. It's not like we're picking people out of the air here. Anyway, let's move on. So let's talk about V8 4.2. So this is looking like a long process, longer than I think many people probably expected. Just for my part, I haven't figured out how we would do RC builds, and at the moment we're doing nightlies off master, which means they're coming out with a 2.0.0 pre-version number. So effectively they're RC builds, but I'd like to hear if anyone thinks we should be dropping some official RC builds for 2.0.
I mean, I think that those should be the RC builds. We should put them on the web page and announce them and say, please use this. And whether we want to go to the work of modifying the build process to make the sender string say -rc.0 instead of -nightly dot blah 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 blah. That's I think that's just it'd be kind of nice, but it's probably not worth it if it's too much work.
Probably not. I could probably just duplicate the job and then change some of the scripting, but then I'd have to figure out where to put them, and then we'd have to figure out how to promote them. That's different. So
I'd be okay with just listing them, especially on the website, just listing the existing nightlies that are going out for 2.0 and saying, each week, making that the RC, by name only, but...
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to take too much longer on this, or otherwise we're going to be up to V8 4.3 by the time we release 2.0, right? So
okay, so let's talk about that then. Can anybody update us on the status of 4.2 merging and is 4.2 in master now?
Yeah, it's merged into Next, and what happened after, that's presumably, well, I suppose Chris knows.
Yeah, so what we worked out, or what I worked out, or sort of rubber ducked in the V180 release thread is that for most of the time, for most of normal development, the next branch will stick around and will represent the next version of V8. And this is when we're developing and the next expected release is going to be within the same major line. So we're developing on, say, 1.7.0 and we're going to release a 1.8.0. The next branch will hold all these new major changes. So that's where we merge things. During normal development, that's where we merge some of our major changes, like the URL changes or V8. When we're on the road to a major release like we are now, all of Next can be merged into master. We can either cherry pick or whatever we want to do. But for this brief period, for now until 2.0, the next branch is kind of vestigial, and all those changes should be moved over to the 2.0 branch. So I was going to pull request those in to master. I can do that today if Ben thinks that the commits are good to go for merging V8.
Yeah.
Cool.
I don't see any problems.
Cool. I will do that today. Other than that, that's.
And we're correctly tracking Chrome exactly, down to the minor.
Yeah, we're at 0.15, I believe. And then there was silence. Does that answer your question, Dominic?
Yeah, sorry, I'm checking on Omaha Proxy. I typed on the wrong keyboard.
I believe the minor is called build.
Yeah, 14 is the latest. So, good times.
Now, shortly after that's released, I feel like we should go ahead and cut the 2 branch and then start speccing the buffer changes on master, just because of the massive breakage that will be coming.
So, are you saying that the next release after 2 will be 3 immediately?
Whatever is, like, I say we start speccing it and working on it as soon as possible, because 4 is when the full breakage will occur, and so if there's anything we can do to alleviate that in the meantime, I think we should start planning and discussing it.
Cool. So the approach I'd like to take with that is once we move everything out of next that's in there right now, we recut next off of the current master, and we start doing that work on next, because that will represent what's going into 3.0 or 4.0 down the line. Does that sound okay? Cool.
Sounds fine to me.
Awesome. Oh, and also, thanks very much, Jeremiah Broad, Johan Bergstrom, and Shigeki for helping with the release. It was a little bit trickier than expected, and your help was much appreciated.
Lots of drama. That was fun. Okay, so it sounds like we have, since we haven't actually got nightlies. We've got next nightlies out, but we don't have nightlies with V8, the V8 upgrade, and we haven't done anything with RCs. It sounds like we should have probably, I don't know, a few days at least, maybe a week of nightlies that we promote for people as RCs before we do the proper upgrade. What's the status of the URL parser changes? Does anyone know?
So I have a task to test them against those modules. I'm still working on that. I've got the list of candidate modules. It should be okay to land in master now, if everyone else is okay with it. We can always just record the breakage.
I know Dominic reviewed it. Dominic, do you have any comments?
I mean, I reviewed it, and he addressed a lot of my concerns, but there was one that he said he was going to fix, but I don't see any follow-up commits. So the big thing is we want the getters and setters to be uniform instead of half of the things being data properties and half of them being accessors. So I think we need to get that fixed before we can merge.
Sorry, what was the outstanding issue, just so I can record that, Dominic? What was the
Yeah,
outstanding issue?
we want there to be getters and setters for all of the properties, instead of half of them being data properties and half of them being getters and setters. Because kind of the backwards incompatible change this time was moving to getters and setters. So if we ever have to do the same thing, well, be another backwards incompatible change. Rather just do it all at once.
And there were no objections to that. That was just a to-do item.
Yeah, exactly. You just said, I'll respond now and fix the code later.
Okay. And was there anything else? Were there any other breaking changes in 2.0 that we need to discuss the status of, or does everything else look like it's good to go? We probably need to merge some stuff.
I retagged the process.send fix as a 2.0 fix, but I haven't actually landed it. Any objections?
No.
No.
I really don't think you can find any objections here.
No, okay. Cool.
Okay, so let's, Chris has dumped a link to the milestone there in the chat. I'll put that in the notes. Let's get stuff landed on master and try and push this forward so that we can be not having the same discussion next week.
One thing that bears mentioning for any collaborators that are watching, there is a new label, Land on Master. since we moved to developing off of master, a lot of the pull requests that exist are targeting the wrong branch now. They should be merged into master instead of v1x. So that's just as a heads up to anybody watching that's merging stuff.
Has v1x recently been merged into master? Because when I made like one of these patches, I couldn't apply it on master. I can just check myself.
Sorry, the mute button was hard to find there. Yeah, I merged v181 into master recently.
All right, cool.
Yeah, no problem.
Oh, sorry, maybe this is a little bit off topic, Ben, but Ben, I think you were working on a timers rewrite. Did I go anywhere?
Yes, but also no. Does that answer your question?
Like, I will make bad jokes about this after the call then.
So the thing is, I did a
breaking
rewrite, but I used a heap, and it was okay. It was actually pretty fast, but the problem is that a heap doesn't maintain order of insertion. So I wasn't quite happy with it, and then I started to rewrite it using a red-black tree. But then I got kind of sidetracked by a company project, and yeah, that's where we are now.
So just to understand it correctly, you were in JavaScript. You were implementing the heap or the red-black tree.
Yeah, that's correct, and also that's what was happening. Yeah.
All right. So what I'm curious about is like libuv uses a heap, so it doesn't maintain. I mean, it uses a heap on Unix anyway. Why is it not a problem there, but it is an issue in Node?
Because libuv doesn't make any guarantees about insertion order, but Node and io.js, well, it doesn't officially do it, but in practice, yeah, well, in practice, timers fire in the way you started them, so seems best not to break that expectation.
Yeah, okay, I agree with that. Okay, thanks.
The important part, I think, about this discussion about timers is just set expectations for people that have it in their mind that timers is going to be rewritten, and therefore they should hold off on submitting patches and everything. That's my concern about this, is that when we dangle out these, this is going to be done, we hold up progress elsewhere. And I'm guilty of this as well, mind you, with a bunch of things. But let's set expectations right for people that are listening to this or reading the minutes.
Well, the reason I'm interested is because I was also at some point wanting to rewrite timers, mostly because there's it is currently very inefficient, especially there's like this unref active method which is really slow, and so I don't think anyone else has been working on that issue in particular, except Chris, who fixed it for Node 0.10, I believe, in like a sort of a good way, but not the best possible way.
There's still an issue open for that on io.js too. I mean, we could still improve that if we wanted to in the meantime, and possibly even improve it better than Node did, probably.
Yes, but no, I mean, so Rod, if people want to work on this, then of course that's welcome.
Okay, so let's move on. The combined TC core call, I've put that back on the agenda just in case there was something to discuss. Does anyone know the status of that and whether that's going to happen, or whether it's status? Anybody got status?
I don't know the exact thing. I think I just saw another follow-up email about it today, which I didn't read yet. TC, I can forward it to you. It probably won't happen this week, but the attempt will be to schedule one next week. And the idea would be to have that be the last one for now and have a convergence or something working group set up that will work it out further.
Okay. The last I heard that there was concerns about scheduling, I think, and there was a desire to have one combined and then you have your own meeting separately. Was that still on the table?
I think so, but I'm not sure.
I don't think so anymore because it was the general consensus that it would just like waste too many people's time. So yeah, there was discussions about making a convergence working group and basically letting them sort of handle that until we have like some final decisions or whatever to make, just so we don't waste everyone's time doing nothing basically.
Yeah, I think what I meant with it's still on the table. My belief was that what we were going to do is have a joint meeting for a while and then, split ways, and then immediately back to back have our sort of own TC meeting. So we don't have it on 2 different days. I think something like that was the idea.
I think that was the original plan, but it turned out that would be kind of impractical to have you'd essentially have something that's almost like 2 hours long then, because you'd have the combined thing and then your own thing. And
all right. Yeah. Okay. I mean, so from what I think about this is, it is probably very impractical because a very big group and scheduling is hard. At the same time, the best way probably to have some coordination between Node and io.js, also when it comes to technical direction, is to at least be on speaking terms and not ignore each other completely. So getting togethers every now and then seems like a good idea.
Maybe just not weekly then. We could set something up. Yeah. Seems like it could be a good idea.
I don't know. Anybody else with an opinion?
It sounds like we're in opinion-free zone.
Okay, that's good. Then I will just apply my own preference to this process.
That's fine. I
Thanks.
think we'd be fine with that. Okay, and the last one was diffing io.js and Node.js Foundation docs and policies. I don't know if Michael's actually done any updates to that, but I just put that on the agenda again so that we could discuss it if there was anything more that came up out of there. But unless anyone has anything to add there, we can skip that one for now. Yeah. Okay, anything else anyone wants to quickly throw on the agenda before we finish up? Oh, we're going to do an open on IRC thing. Let me just note that. But if there's anything else anyone wants to bring up?
Trevor, you mentioned something about HTTP parser.
Yeah, but it's more like a technical thing, so I don't know, we could discuss it privately on IRC. It doesn't need any decision from the TC at the moment.
All right.
Okay. So.
Okay, let's ask in IRC if there's anything that anyone wants to ask or discuss.
Well, meanwhile, while we are waiting, Ben, so basically with HTTP parser, you decided, and we decided, you told me, to revert it because of the upgrade issues, but Brian has pointed out that it's actually not an issue at all, yeah, because the protocol.
The upgrade header without a matching connection header.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that Brian is right that it's a violation of the spec. And the reason I referred it back then was because there was a failing test. A test I wrote myself, I believe.
Yeah.
So it's quite possible Well, I don't really have a strong opinion. If you want to upgrade, go ahead. And yeah, well, if something breaks in the real world, I suspect that we'll hear people screaming quickly enough.
Okay. Okay, yeah. I'm going to land and review the Facebook patches of the HTTP parser, and probably after that I will submit a PR for upgrading the HTTP parser. So yeah, thank you.
Okay, cool.
So we did have one bit of input from IRC, which is Will Cap just wanted to comment on the concerns about merging the project, slowing down io.js. I think that he says he hopes it remains a background task. I think this goes back to what I was discussing earlier, which is that the possibility of a merger has the potential to slow or put on pause or on hold things that we are thinking about doing or would otherwise be doing. And that I don't think that should be the case. I think we should be continuing on as normal, and as Will Cap says, it should be a background task, because for one, we can't assume that will happen, and for another, if it does happen, it could actually take a while, even though I know Michael is hopeful that it would be a very quick process. I suspect it will probably be a bit longer than quick, and then we have to figure out what to do with the code bases on the release and the io.js brand and all that sort of stuff. So it's likely to be a long process if it happens. So, Will Cap, I support your perspective there.
Yeah, I don't see us slowing down either, so I wouldn't be too worried about it.
I am, to be honest, like, I don't want us to slow down if nothing is going to come out of it or nothing is going to happen. At the same time, I mean, I see value in merging, and so if that means that, well, let's say there is, the foundation is about to be, actually created, which I think, well, it was supposed to happen May 1st, but as was to be expected, it will slip a little bit. Well, it's not going to slip for half a year. By that time, we have to be a little bit flexible, and I think it just helps everyone if we do that. Which may mean, that we don't make certain changes because we haven't decided together with Node that this is the right way to go. So for now, I'm not suggesting that there's anything we stop doing right now because there's an impossible merger. But I think it might be okay for a couple of weeks if it was necessary.
If and when the merge happens, what's going to happen, at least how I see it, is that join Node, the 010 and 012 branches are going to be some kind of long-term support branches, while io.js is going to be the master in more than one way, presumably. What I mean is, I don't expect that much of the code that currently exists in 012 is going to end up in master in io.js. Am I wrong? If I am, convince me.
No, I don't think you're wrong. There might be some ICU stuff. I think that's the only technical difference right now.
Right, but that's trivial stuff. I mean,
I agree. It's not like a long and very difficult and complex list of things that we would have to think about. So no, I agree, and I think also, like, practically speaking, what will happen is the separate groups will sort of keep maintaining the branch they're currently working on. So I'm not sure, of course, but I would kind of think that some people that are now maintaining Node 012 would be doing the same thing, and we would be releasing io.js for a while. So like the initial step of the merger would basically be that we sort of share some territory, and also for future changes that we are neither project is now thinking about, we would try to coordinate them together so that we don't diverge extremely, but we sort of keep on the same track.
what's there to diverge, or at least what's there to diverge more? And we're already.
The obvious one is the INTL changes and Michael's proposal to use that jQuery library. That's what's one obvious area.
That's one obvious. So, but this will be a difficult. Like, this is currently the only. I think, I'm not sure, but I think this will be the only difficult discussion we would have when we when we attempted to merge the code bases. I haven't heard. I mean, there might be things that the Node people have issues with that we did, but I haven't heard about any so far. But we can easily create more of those problems. Like, let's say if we add another core module that is like, I don't know, we are not planning to do that. They might, for example, object. So if we want to do that, we would probably need to discuss it with them first. So in that sense, I think there might be a little bit of a slowdown, but there will be, like, we'll not be going back to the old model. Like, this is the model that we would be working under.
When you say we need to discuss with them, the way I understand it, eventually we're going to have a single technical steering committee where everyone has a voice and a vote. And in the end, if there is disagreement about a technical change, we vote on it, and whatever comes out of the vote is what happens.
That's true, but since we don't have any joint meetings so far, making a decision requires coordination because there's no. Okay. Maybe we got too far out in the woods. Never mind. But what you're saying is correct, Ben. Like, indeed, that would be sort of the end state. There is one TC, and it works basically the same way as we do it, like the current TC works.
Yeah.
Okay. I would add things, but I'm not sure that would be constructive at this point. So, but the general point about holding up progress, I think, stands. But being aware of things that may be contentious if a merger were to happen, I don't think they would hold up progress. Like the internationalization stuff, I don't think we have any urgency on that. We don't have anyone pushing us to have anything done there. So
no,
we can defer some of that.
That's
activity, I think.
That's true. No, I think what you're saying is correct, Rod. Like, we don't want to slow down progress, and we have to be aware that there might be something going on.
It is probably worth, if you're going to chat with James and anyone else from Foundation or Joint Node TC, then perhaps bringing up our TC expansion with them and just discussing that and seeing if there's any concerns.
Yes, actually, I have to leave because that call starts in 2.
Okay. Well, I think we're pretty much done. I know that it looks like there's some other discussion coming up in the chat here, but is there any? You want to add anything about meeting time next week? Is there any reason we shouldn't meet this time next week? Or anybody else?
This is fine.
I'm going to pencil it in. Okay, sorry, there was discussion in chat. Does somebody want to bring that up to the open?
S5FS asks in the chat room, is io.js considered ready for production use?
Yes.
Can we recommend specific versions or
latest stable?
Cool.
I mean, we're following Semfair, so yeah, latest stable is always the best.
I think we can, when we go 2.0, we can probably recommend people take it easy on just jumping into 2.0. If people are using it in production, maybe don't just jump straight to it and wait for things to bubble up. At least that's the approach that I would take.
Do you foresee major problems or subtle?
No, the problems are around things like the URL changes, stuff like that, where there are edge cases. Like we did the require dot change, and it brought up something we weren't even aware of. Those kinds of things happen. So let them bubble up. I think if you're going to throw it into production, just hold off for a minute while we do some shuffling of the deck chairs.
They add that they ask because they've had modules break, such as New Relic not working with 1.8.1. I think we're trying to get better at that. In general, just building tooling around being able to see when we're going to break things and being a little bit more conservative about introducing changes that could create breaking changes, break downstream modules.
Actually, I believe I saw someone from New Relic comment earlier today in the IC channel that 1.8.1 breakage in the New Relic module was actually the fault of, well, something in the New Relic module. If you scroll up, you can see Rayton saying, never mind, appears to be our fault for not having future-proofed our proxying of Nextstick. So, there you have it.
So does it mean that they're going to fix it?
Yeah, I presume.
Right.
I can't speak for New Relic, of course, but
Okay, it sounds like we've got everything covered, unless there's anything else anyone wants to add.
S5FS asks another question. What module integration testing is performed pre-release? Are there certain special modules that get more testing time than others? I think the answer right now is no, but it's going to change in the near future to yes.
I'm working on narrowing down the list of modules for a given change, so that we can test a subset instead of having to test the entire ecosystem, which would take forever.
Oh, right. Well, I think the question is, are there certain modules, like for example Express, that we test with each release? And I think
the easy answer is no, but it's probably something that a few of us have discussed. NPM are doing this with their stuff because they've found that there are certain use cases where it's useful to go through modules like Happy that does certain things with NPM. So we probably should be looking at some of the popular ones and running test suites and things. But I don't know. Maybe we should move that discussion over to build and the build working group and see if we can come up with some kind of solution there. To me it seems like such a non-trivial job. Like there's a lot of work there. That unless there's somebody with the time and energy to jump in to contribute, I'm afraid it might get deferred. But we can at least record it. Yeah, so Ben is asking S5FS if he or she is volunteering. Okay. In lieu of other questions, let's close it up now. So thanks everyone for participating. Thanks Brian and Shieki for joining us, and Fedor and Shieki for having to translate this English into your native language. I'm sorry that that's so hard. I have no idea what that's even like.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, let's call it quits. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Thanks.